Old comic guy coming at you with another comic haul. Um, I want to, I guess bring up that I'm still playing catch up. These are past comic hauls that I had that I just put to the side. I didn't do anything with because I just didn't have the time, work and everything. But we're almost to the point of being caught up, so I'm pretty happy about that. This one is another one from an antique store. This is from the Brass Armadillo again, but this is the one off of I-17 or Interstate 17. We have two locally here in the valley, and so this is the one up north. I've shared some stuff from there, and I've learned, so I went ahead and went back and just looking to see what I could find, and let me show you what I got. So first up, we have Ka-Zar the Savage, number 10. This is from 1981. The writer's Bruce Jones. The art is Brent Anderson, including the cover. One of the things I think that's kind of cool about this is you'll notice that it's got the Marvel triangle or diamond, fat diamond. I've heard it called a lot of things. So this is the beginning of the, given this started like in the 70s, right? But this is a direct edition. Sometimes they're called Whitman variants, which is really kind of not necessarily the right word because they weren't all Whitman. But yeah, and so it's tough in the early 80s to tell whether this was one that was part of a big bag thing. So the thing with the Whitmans were the newsstands actually could be returned. If you weren't aware, in comics, the newsstands, which this isn't, could be returned for partial credit. Basically, whatever you didn't sell, you'd return. And Whitman was one of the big ones, and they would market some direct editions. So they would get same printing. So these are first prints, and they would collect them into bags and sell them in stores. Your five and dime stores, not necessarily convenience stores, but you'd see them in, like what was around, J.C. Penney's, Kmart, Walmart, all those sort of stores. Now, we have names for them. We call them the Walmart stuff, right? But back then, they would go into those stores, and Whitman or whoever would sell them, and those couldn't be returned. So Marvel, to make sure that people weren't just taking their unsold off the newsstand and selling them to Whitman, or just trying that, would make the diamonds. So that's where the diamonds come from. That's the original thought behind it and process. But it becomes harder to tell. So if you do get one that you're sure is Whitman, say 77 to 79, technically only 5% of the comics that were released were that way, and of them, they were the ones left on the shelf, hanging, beaten. Man, it's odd that they're not worth a crap ton of money, because they're essentially incredibly rare. Think about it. Newsstands, 50% of the market in the 70s was newsstand. The other ones were United States newsstands, right? The rest were Canadian or UK, which were all first prints, but they were just given a different thing, so they'd get shipped off. But there was only 5% of them, of all that particular issue, were Whitman variants. 5%. And of them, how many survived? Maybe 1%, considering how beaten they were, and they were just tossed to kids. This is genuinely how a lot of us started collecting, would find those. But I thought that was pretty interesting. So if you didn't know about Whitman variants, and that, I'm just going to call them Whitman variants, but I do understand that they weren't just Whitman. It makes it pretty cool. Some other stuff. So, Arak, Son of Thunder. It's created by Roy Thomas and Ernie Colon. I think Colon did this cover too. I know he did the other cover. Yeah, him and man, I'm gonna butcher his name. Dick Giordano. Yeah. First appeared as a 16-page pullout in Warlord number 48. That was common. DC was doing that with their tries. They would put them in a pullout. So he, and of course Roy writes, Ernie does the art on this. His father is Hino, God of Thunder. Mother is Star of Dawn, who's a human. Series starred him and the Viking Prince. So this is where the Viking Prince comes back. I got number 4 and number 5. The Viking Prince was created by Robert Kanigher and Joe Kubert, first appearing in Brave and the Bold number 1. Back then, Brave and the Bold did not have to have Batman. Back in 1955, again, Roy wrote both these issues. Ernie was the art. The editor was Dick Giordano, who did do the covers with Colin. And Tony Zuniga, I think is how it's pronounced, is the inker of this, who actually does some good art on his own. So yeah, pretty cool. What else we got? We got some Infinity Inc. number 5. Infinity Inc. was created by Roy Thomas, Jerry Ordway, and Mike Macklin. First appeared in All-Star Squadron number 25 in 1983. The series picked up in 84 and ran till 1988, and they were the kids of the Just Society. This one's number 5. It's from 1984. Roy and Dan are credited with writing it. Art's Jerry Ordway, inks Mike Macklin, and they both did the cover. They go through the Crisis, so Infinity Inc. does stick around through the Crisis. All-Star Squadron, pretty much after the Crisis, it kind of ended, and then they brought out the Young All-Stars. So it's pretty cool, even though most of these characters had their histories rewritten, because they couldn't exist. And then I found number 50. So midway through the series, the Crisis happened and basically rewrote these characters. Last issue is number 53. 50 came out in 88. Roy Thomas, still the writer. The art on this was Vince Argandez. Ink was Tony DeZuniga. Covers Michael Baer. Really, I guess I should say, Michael Baer is actually a pseudonym, if you didn't know. And you may see his name on stuff. It's really Michael Hernandez is his name. I'm not sure why he uses the bear. Yeah, sometimes you just wonder why they do that. Anyway, I love those Golden Age type characters. A lot of stuff that has a pulp feel is definitely why I love some of these old stories and stuff. Those Golden Age characters kind of have that pulp feel. Also, some that have the pulp feel is we have Mystery in Space. This is volume 2, 2006 to 2007, focused on Captain Comet and the Weird. Both were written by Jim Starlin. There's a surprise. The Weird is Jim Starlin's creation, so it shouldn't be a surprise. Captain Comet is created by Julie Schwartz, John Broome, and Carmen Infantino back in Strange Adventures 1951, number, I don't know, it might have been the first one. At least by number 9 he's in there. But yeah, so this is them bringing it back. I picked up, I don't remember how many there were in this series, 8. I picked up 3, I found 3, I found 4. I mentioned The Weird was created by Jim Starlin. Also Bernie Wrightson helped, and it first appeared in The Weird in 1988. all of these covers, 3, 4, and 5 that I picked up were Shane Davison and Bat, or Matt Banning. He goes by Bat when he signs, so, you know, kind of interesting. The main story is written by Jim Starlin, and the art's by Shane Davis, and Matt Banning is the inks. The weird solo story, Jim Starlin writes and does the art for. And then there's number 5. Pretty cool. I picked them up. It's one I kind of wanted to read when they came out, but I just, you know, money was tight. I couldn't afford to spend the money on it. And they're a lot cheaper at $1 at an antique store, right? Even at $2, they weren't bad. Some of them weren't bad. That's basically what these were, $1 and $2. Countdown presents The Search for Ray Palmer. This is the Crime Society. Number 1. It's actually 3rd in The Search for Ray Palmer. This came out in 2007. This is called Jokester's Last Laugh. That's the story arc. The writer is Sean McKeever. Art is Jamie Eagle, and then the cover is Tony Daniel. You can kind of tell that. Pretty cool. This sets up for 3. This is where you are introduced to the Jokester. I think this is his first real appearance. And what's interesting is it ties into Dula Dent from the old Teen Titans. She's actually his daughter. I also found some Countdown to Adventure. This is pretty cool. Countdown to Adventure was an 8-issue limited series. It ran through 2007 to 2008. Main story was pretty much Adam Strange. Included some Animal Man and Starfire. I think at one point even Forerunner makes an appearance in it. Forerunner is the backup stories, so that's pretty cool. Just, yeah, some of those space stuff is pretty cool. The main story was written by Adam Beecher. Art was Eddie Barrows. The backup was written by Justin Gray. Art by Fabrizio Fiorentino. And the covers were Ivan Reyes, Auclair Albert, and or Ivan and Rod Reyes, and then Auclair Albert. So that's pretty cool. We have the JL Axis. Man, how many times has that been done? Love it every time. I think it's pretty interesting when they come up with new ways to do bad superheroes, I guess. Number 3. Number 4. I should say I was looking through these. These are okay. They're not in like near mint condition, but they're not bad. Maybe a fine, very fine. But yeah, they are something I may want to look at. I don't know, upgrading, finding a little bit better version, maybe a little bit cleaner version, because it's not like they're bad, but they're kind of, you know, sitting around, probably in a box loose for a while. Number 6. Number 7. And we have number 8. So basically the whole series here, pretty nice. Of course I'll be on the watch out for a little bit cleaner copies, but these are pretty good. Alright, we're getting caught up. Again, this is from the antique store called the Brass Armadillo here in the Phoenix metro area. This is the one up off of I-17 or Interstate 17. Remember, I shared this with the last few, but please, it's important. If you're getting them from an antique store and you get a bundle, and it doesn't have to be a huge bundle, what is there, probably 20 in here, from the same vendor, go up to the counter and ask if they give a discount. Worst case, they tell you no, and you're paying whatever that price is. Best case, they're taking off, 20% or more, especially if they're running a special. Brass Armadillo does run specials, so that's always nice. All right, you guys be good, take care of each other, and I'll be back with more shortly.